Hi,
Good morning.
this is Kim,
This is Andy.
and we're here to read to you from the Urantia book. Okay, but first, a short reading from Light the Flame by Andrew Harvey. Okay, and this is March 28th, and this is from Rabia Basri, who was a Muslim mystic, a Sufi mystic in the 8th century AD. So, which is awesome for me to know that when I look at Islamic culture today, I'm glad to know that here they had a highly revered female spiritual figure here, which is wonderful.
Right.
Okay. Oh my Lord, if I worship you from fear of hell, burn me in hell. If I worship you from hope of paradise, bar me from its gates. But if I worship you for yourself alone, grant me then the beauty of your face. That's amazing. So she wants to be, purified to the point where she loves God just for God and not for anything, any reward or salvation that she may receive on a result of that. So that's recognition of our human weakness. Yeah, but yeah, that's, isn't that why we're trying to get into this? Like, who hasn't gotten into religion because of some catastrophe that there's like, oh my gosh, God, get me out of this,
Exactly.
So, but
we become transactional.
Transactional. Excellent. Save me from this thing.
Life, then I'll
do what you want. But yeah, we rise above that,
This looks like an interesting subject today.
Okay. We're on paper 195 after Pentecost, and we're doing part 7, the vulnerability of materialism.
All right, beginning.
Do you want to go?
How foolish it is for material-minded man. How about you start? I've got a little frog.
Okay. Here, have a drink. You got one?
Yeah.
How foolish it is for material-minded man to allow such vulnerable theories as those of a mechanistic universe to deprive him of the vast spiritual resources of the personal experience of true religion. Facts never quarrel with real spiritual faith. Theories may. Better that science should be devoted to the destruction of superstition rather than attempting the overthrow of religious faith, human belief in spiritual realities, and divine values.
Like that.
Science should do for man materially what religion does for him spiritually. Extend the horizon of life and enlarge his personality. True science can have no lasting quarrel with true religion. The scientific method is merely an intellectual yardstick wherewith to measure material adventures and physical achievements. But being material and wholly intellectual, it is utterly useless in the evaluation of spiritual realities and religious experiences. So we can't use science to really build a measure God. Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to search for the word, and then there you go. Can't measure God, or even measure the God within us. Okay.
The inconsistency of the modern mechanist is, if this were merely a material universe, and man only a machine, such a man would be wholly unable to recognize himself as such. a machine, and likewise, would such a machine man be wholly unconscious of the fact of the existence of such a material universe? Materialistic dismay and despair of a mechanistic science has failed to recognize the fact that the spiritual indwelt mind of the scientist, whose very supermaterial insight formulates these mistaken and self-contradictory concepts of a materialistic universe. Paradise values of eternity and infinity, of truth, beauty, and goodness are concealed within the facts of the phenomena of the universes of time and space, but it requires the eye of faith in a spiritual-born mortal to detect and discern these spiritual values. So spiritual values can't necessarily be measured and be evaluated with facts.
Right. I like how he talks about how we can't recognize if the material universe is only a machine and man's only a machine, then it can't recognize itself. It wouldn't be able to recognize itself, right?
So AI apparently isn't going to be able to recognize itself.
That's the idea. Interesting. Yeah, and I've heard different animals can recognize themselves in the mirror, but some of them can't. So that's a strange phenomena here. Yeah, okay. Anyway. Yeah. So if we were machines, we wouldn't even be interested in trying to figure out what the universe is, right?
Right.
Right? I think that's what it's saying. What we are, what the universe is, or relationship to it. We wouldn't even be interested in that.
I think that's behind the humor in was it there something at the end of the world, a restaurant at the end of the world?
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life? 42.
Yeah, it's yeah. Okay. The realities and values of spiritual progress are not a psychologic projection, a mere glorified daydream of the material mind. Such things are the spiritual forecasts of the indwelling adjuster, the Spirit of God living in the mind of man. And let not your dabblings with the faintly glimpsed findings of relativity disturb your concepts of the eternity and infinity of God. In all your solicitation concerning the necessity for self-expression, do not make the mistake of failing to provide for a juster expression, the manifestation of your real and better self. If this were only a material universe, material man would never be able to arrive at the concept of the mechanistic character of such an exclusively material existence. Right. Yeah, because we wouldn't be interested in that. We wouldn't be able to find the concepts that underlie everything if we were just material, because we wouldn't have the interest in doing that. This very mechanistic concept of the universe is in itself a non-material phenomenon of mind, and all mind is of non-material origin, no matter how thoroughly it may appear to be materially conditioned and mechanistically controlled. Right.
The partially evolved mental mechanism of mortal man is not overendowed with consistency and wisdom. Man's conceit often outruns his reason and eludes his logic. The very pessimism of the most pessimistic materialist is in and of itself sufficient proof that the universe of the pessimist is not wholly material. Both optimism and pessimism are concept reactions in a mind conscious of values as well as the facts. If the universe were truly what the materialist regards it to be, man as a human machine would then be devoid of all conscious recognition of the very fact. Without the consciousness of the concept of values within the spirit-born mind, the fact of universe materialism and the mechanistic phenomena of universe operation would be wholly unrecognized by man.
Mm-hmm.
One machine cannot be conscious of the nature or value of another machine.
Right. Okay. Right. So, and this idea, what's interesting, this AI stuff and all the, like, C3PO and R2D2 have this really unique relationship. They wouldn't be able to have that. They're not, so the fact that they have that kind of a relationship pitches them into another order of beings that is non-material beings.
Right.
See?
Right.
So, and I don't think, but then can people create those orders of intelligence?
I think the best we can do is interact with them as if they were, but they're not, and we ascribe things to them that really aren't there. Yeah.
But that's kind of a fantasy. That's what we're going through now. Is trying to make the truly independent, autonomous, artificial intelligence machine,
Right.
But it can know facts. It can know all these facts, but it doesn't put values on them. That's the difference.
We continue to advance, but we'll never get there. I don't care how many brain boxes your car has, it'll still just be a car, even though Alexa might talk to you in your car.
Right.
It's still just a car.
It's not Knight Rider thing. Yeah.
No, it's not Kit.
Kit the Knight Rider car. Oh my gosh. Flashback, right? Okay. A mechanistic philosophy of life and the universe cannot be scientific because science recognizes and deals only with materials and facts. Philosophy is inevitably super scientific. Man is a material fact of nature, but this life is a phenomenon which transcends the material levels of nature, and that it exhibits the control attributes of mind and the creative qualities of spirit. The sincere effort of man to become a mechanist represents the tragic phenomenon of that man's futile effort to commit intellectual and moral suicide. But he cannot do it, right? They want, and it comes from this need to have everything in control, have everything in order, pinned down, so it doesn't move, and that's death. There's only one kind of thing that doesn't change, or it's dead things, right?
Right.
So this yearning for control that we have is actually death yearning. Yeah. Okay. You want to go?
If the universe were only material and man only a machine, there would be no science to embolden the scientist to postulate this mechanization of the universe. Machines cannot measure, classify, nor evaluate themselves. Such a scientific piece of work could be executed only by some entity of super machine status. If a universe reality is only one vast machine, then man must be outside of the universe and apart from it in order to recognize such a fact and become conscious of the insight of such an evaluation.
And that's exactly what the metaphysical or the atomic physicists have found out when they try to put this here, and they've tried to get outside of the system. And that's one of the tenets of science, is that in order to observe the system effectively, you have to isolate the system, from the
because by observing the
system, you change it. See?
Right.
And that's the thing they've found. That's frustrated them, but they've had some spiritual insight a lot of scientists have because of that. I think that's wonderful. Okay, that's so enlightening. Okay, if man is only a machine, by what technique does this man come to believe or claim to know that he is only a machine? The experience of self-conscious evaluation of oneself is never an attribute of a mere machine. A self-conscious and avowed mechanist is the best possible answer to the mechanism. If materialism were a fact, there could be no self-conscious mechanist. It is also true that one must first be a moral person before one can perform immoral acts. Right.
Wow.
Otherwise, they're just programmed into you. And even if you're programmed to kill somebody, you're really innocent of that because you didn't program it.
The very claim of materialism implies a supermaterial consciousness of the mind, which presumes to assert such dogmas. A mechanism might deteriorate, but it could never progress. Machines do not think, create, dream, aspire, idealize, hunger for truth, or thirst for righteousness. They do not motivate their lives with the passion to serve other machines and to choose as their goal of eternal progression the sublime task of finding God and striving to be like Him. Machines are never intellectual, emotional, aesthetic, ethical, moral, or spiritual.
That's so interesting. You know what I'm thinking now? Did you see Millennial Man with Robin Williams?
I don't think so.
Millennium Man. So Robin Williams plays this robot. He starts out as a robot.
Oh, wait a minute. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. And then he gradually over generations, morphs into, a human type of consciousness. So I think the fantasy that these AI people have is that the more sophisticated they can make their machines, sophisticated that these characteristics of being able to think, create, dream, idealize, will just emerge naturally from the substrate of the mechanism. Okay. That's what they think will happen because that's kind of how they're imagining their own creation. It just kind of emerges naturally from that. But we're seeing here, we're reading that that's just a fantasy, that just doesn't happen. So, yeah. And so we don't have to worry about Terminator stuff or Matrix stuff.
No. They'll continue to be machines.
They'll just be machines.
Right.
Okay, because I'm worried about that. That's kind of the thing.
Art proves that man is not mechanistic, but it does not prove that he is spiritually immortal. Art is moral and morantia. Mortal morantia, the intervening field between man, material, and man, the spiritual. Poetry is an effort to escape from material realities to spiritual values.
In a high civilization, art humanizes science, while in turn it is spiritualized by true religion, insight into the spiritual and eternal values. Art represents the human and time-space evaluation of reality. Wow. Religion is the divine embrace of cosmic values and connotes eternal progression in spiritual ascension and expansion. The art of time is dangerous only when it becomes blind to the spirit standards of the divine patterns which eternity reflects as the reality shadows of time. Wow, wow. Okay. So art can become dangerous when it becomes blind to spirit standards. So when it denigrates itself or like something. True art is the effective manipulation of the material things of life. Religion is the ennobling transformation of the material facts of life, and it never ceases in its spiritual evaluation of art. How foolish to presume that an automaton could conceive a philosophy of automatism, and how ridiculous that it should presume to form such a concept of other fellow automatons.
Mm.
Okay, so they're just marveling at how dumb that idea is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any scientific interpretation of the material universe is valueless unless it provides due recognition for the scientist. No appreciation of art is genuine unless it accords recognition to the artist. No evaluation of morals is worthwhile unless it includes the moralist. No recognition of philosophy is edifying if it ignores the philosopher. And religion cannot exist without the real experience of the religionist, who in and through this very experience is seeking to find God and to know Him. Likewise is the universe of universes without significance apart from the I Am, the infinite God who made it and increasingly manages it.
Unceasingly manages it.
Unceasingly manages it. Wow. Mechanists, humanists tend to drift with the material currents. Idealists and spiritualists dare to use their oars with intelligence and vigor in order to modify the apparently purely material course of the energy streams. Science lives by the mathematics of the mind. Music expresses the tempo of the emotions. Religion is the spiritual rhythm of the soul in the time-space harmony with the higher and eternal melody measurements of infinity. Religious experience is something in human life which is truly super mathematical.
In language, an alphabet represents the mechanism of materialism, while the words expressive of the meaning of 1,000 thoughts, grand ideas, and noble ideals of love and hate, of cowardice and courage, represent the performances of mind within the scope defined by both material and spiritual law, directed by the assertion of the will of personality and limited by the inherent spiritual endowment. Wow. The universe is not like the laws, mechanisms, and the uniformities which the scientist discovers, okay, and which he comes to regard as science, but rather like the curious, thinking, choosing, creative, combining, and discriminating scientist who thus observes universe phenomena and classifies the mathematical facts inherent in the mechanistic phases of the material side of creation. Wow, that is like a huge sentence, but I'm gonna like look at that for a minute here. So the universe is not like laws and mechanisms. The universe is like the scientist that investigates the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in a way, there's some the effect of this projection that they're assuming is the same. Okay, but it's more about, you know, this relationship between the observed and the observer is this thing that is kind of, you know, important and you see what I'm saying? So it's true that the universe is like the scientist who observes.
The universe is alive.
Right.
And it can't just be measured. I mean, parts of it can be. It has qualities that can be, but it's more than that.
It's more than that. It's something
more. The
more.
universe is alive.
Yeah. So it's true that we kind of project our will and our on the thing that's observed, project part of ourselves on that, but it was a thing before that.
Mhm.
Okay? Right?
Right.
It was a thing before that.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Neither is the universe like the art of the artist, but rather like the striving, dreaming, aspiring, and advancing artist who seeks to transcend the world of material things in an effort to achieve a spiritual goal. So is it so we beg the question, right? So is it we assume that I'm giving the universe its identity or the object its identity, but maybe that object is reflecting back on me and giving me part of my identity.
Mhm.
Okay?
It's at least speaking to the relationship.
The
between you
relationship
and-
between me and whatever phenomenon is observed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Do you want me to finish? I'll just finish up,
Sure.
okay?
Okay.
The scientist, not science, perceives the reality of an evolving and advancing universe of energy and matter. The artist, not art, demonstrates the existence of the transient Urantia world intervening between material existence and spiritual liberty. The religionist, not religion, proves the existence of the spirit realities and divine values which are to be encountered in the progress of eternity. So the perceptive ability, though, is with the observer, okay, not necessarily with the observed phenomenon.
So if we don't take these qualities into account, then apparently we move on to the next section, which is secular totalitarianism,
Okay.
or we're ruled by
We're ruled by
materialistic.
by materialistic things.
Mhm.
And that's really just this denigration of both the observer and the what's observed,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because it's the striving for, well, I call it death cult, the striving for death or the need to control things, pin these things down into what they are and not let them change.
Mhm.
Because that makes us feel, that gives us the sense of security. Yeah.
Mhm.
This release from obligation to do work and try to understand things as they change. So that's where that comes from, and it said that death is the ultimate mercy because it releases us from that obligation to grow and change.
Mhm.
And that's the only thing that does that. But then when we're craving that release, that's what we do. We try to control and pin down these exact things here and not allow our relationships to morph
Mhm.
into whatever's necessary. Yeah, instead of marveling that they do that, right?
Right.
They do that. We want to just pin them down. Okay.
Gives me new insight into the heart of the Lakota spiritual path,
Yeah.
which is mitakwayasa, meaning all my relations.
The relationships are the thing, and that's where this this magic happens, this morphing, this changing, yeah, into yeah, that's what means it's alive.
Mhm. Right.
It's alive
Mhm.
if it's developing or growing.
Mhm.
Okay, I think that's enough for today. I hope you enjoyed being with us. I know our lighting here in this place, we have to try to figure out our lighting better, but that's what it is for now. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Okay, bye. Have a good
great
day.
day.